Namaste. We welcome you all to today's celebration of remembering Maria Montessori and Rabindranath Tagore. Every year on this day, 31st of August, at Axel Formal Plus Aspiration School, we remember Maria Montessori and Rabindranath Tagore on Maria Montessori's birthday, which is 31st of August. This is our 5th year of celebration, and every year we either the students perform or the children or the teachers perform, and we have had also external artists perform. But this year is unique. This year being the difficult year with pandemic, all of us most of the time, and we could plan for an event where the students and teachers both have participated to celebrate this moment. Axel loves working and wishes to work with the education philosophy of Rabindranath and Maria Montessori, where we give extreme importance to the need of the children and to the independence and self-discipline to be inculcated. Today's event is a combination of recordings by the students and the teachers, and they have been put together in a form of a video. As we begin the program, I should not forget to mention that these two beautiful portraits of Maria Montessori and Rabindranath Tagore has been done by our head of art department, Mr. Anil Singh, and a beautiful chalk work by him. And another thing I must mention, that the children showed tremendous grace, courtesy, and patience while we were doing the rehearsals of this difficult program. Thank you very much, Mr. Anil Singh, and thank you so much, all the students. Let's sit back and relax and watch this wonderful presentation of a life of these great people as portrayed by Maria Montessori's son, Mario Montessori, and also taken from the childhood and a part of his life, Rabindranath, as written by him in Jivan Smriti. Enjoy, and let's begin the show.
One of the world's great educators, Maria Montessori originated many of the techniques that are now used to teach young children. A warm-hearted scientist, she never lost sight of the child as an individual and a very special human being. In 1965, Mario Montessori granted an interview sharing some memories of his exceptional mother, Maria Montessori. Today, on Dr. Montessori's birthday, we have the honor of sharing this interview with you. My most unforgettable character by Mario Montessori. When I was a boy, I was woken early one morning at a house in Rome by the shaking of my bed and a deep rumbling sound. I had no more than opened my eyes when my mother walked in, calm and smiling, and sat on the edge of my bed. "Mario," she said, "do you see how the chandelier sways from the ceiling?" I did. "Do you feel how the floor trembles?" I nodded. My mother spread out her arms as if inviting me to a wonderful surprise. "This, Mario, is an earthquake." For Maria Montessori, even an earthquake was an opportunity to open a child's mind. She believed God had invested human beings with the urge and the power to fulfill themselves. In finding a way to liberate that power, she gave the world a new approach to education as a joyful process of self-discovery and self-realization.
peace, peace, peace in my fingers. Watch what I can do. I've got peace, peace, peace in my fingers. Gonna shake hands with you. Peace, peace in my fingers. Watch what I can do. I've got words, words, words in my head. Watch what I can do. I've got words, words, words in my head. Gonna talk things over with you. I got love, love, love in my heart. Watch what I can do. I got love, love, love in my heart. Gonna give some to you. I got peace, peace, peace in my fingers. Words, words, words in my head. I got love, love, love in my heart. Gonna give some to you.
My greatest pride is to have shared in her work. Once, when I was a boy, I was separated from her in a crowd. Finding her again, I boasted, "You cannot go to any place where I cannot follow you." I almost made this boast come true. For 40 years, as secretary, assistant, and junior colleague, I followed her over half the world, wherever her vocation took her. As a little girl, my mother was the most backward pupil in her school, unable to get the lessons into her head. Then, at 10, Maria suddenly changed. Along with a heightened interest in religion, not unusual in girls of that age, she developed a sense of vocation. Her parents first became aware of it while she was seriously ill with influenza. The doctor told them to be prepared for the worst. Maria reassured her mother, "Don't worry, Mamma Mia, I'm not going to die. I have too much to do." Then onwards, she became first in her class.
Oh, 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 oh. Give me freedom, give me fire, give me reason, take me higher. See the champion, take the fish now. In violence, lead me down. In the streets are heads are lifted. And lose up in the mission. Celebration, it surrounds us. Every nation, all around us.
In those days, defective children were classed with and housed with the insane. In one asylum, La Doresa saw such children herded together in a bare room like prisoners. "Look at them," said the matron in disgust. "When their meals are finished, they throw themselves on the floor like animals in search of crumbs." My mother watched with shrill and incoherent cries. The children stretched their hands out for scraps of bread which they kneaded into different shapes. With a flash of insight, my mother saw that what these children craved was not so much food as experience. Those little hands were groping for contact with the world. Some inner power was propelling these children to try and develop body, mind, and personality. Instead of being isolated and restrained, they needed to be liberated.
Staying forever young, singing song underneath the sun. Let's rejoice in the beautiful day, and together at the end of the day, we'll all say, when I get older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a waving. When I get older, I will be stronger. They call me freedom, just like a waving flag. When I get older, I will be stronger. They'll call me freedom, just like a waving flag. So wave your flag, now wave your flag, now wave your flag. Oh, 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 oh.
Visiting state schools, she found that everything possible was done to discourage the child's initiative. Pupils were forced to sit on benches so close to the desk that they had to bend and twist their bodies to slide in. Once locked in place, they supposedly couldn't help listening to the teacher. Highest credit went for sitting still. The slightest movement was severely punished. Our moral sense seems to be in the seat of the trousers, she told a group of educators and public officials. Her Casa di Bambini, children's house, opened in the notorious San Lorenzo slums. There were 60 tearful, frightened children, so shy that it was impossible to get them to speak. Dejected, uncared for, pale, undernourished children who had grown up in dark hovels without anything to stimulate their minds. That is how my mother described her charges on the first day together. During the next 2 years, these little vandals, as one reporter called them, were to help my mother revolutionize education in front of the entire world. Instead of imposing arbitrary rules and pounding facts into their heads, she looked for ways of releasing their independence. Her first step was to free the children by civilizing them. Teach the importance of doing even the smallest task well. Mother admonished her teachers with these words. Then give them freedom to choose their activity and indulge in it as long as they like. Montessori children learned to blow their noses quietly, wash their hands, tie shoelaces, polish their shoes, fasten belt buckles, and pour water or milk without spilling it. Self-reliance and self-discipline, she wrote, are outward signs of healthy inward functioning. Sigmund Freud once remarked admiringly that children trained in the Montessori spirit were bound to make poor customers for psychoanalysis later in life.
You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are grey. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. You are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are grey. You never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away.
When the Spanish Civil War broke out, I was in London and mother was alone in our Barcelona house with 3 of my children. Trucks manned by loyalist militia roamed the streets, arresting suspected Franco sympathizers. Feelings ran high against Catholics, and to be Italian as well increased the danger. A truck stopped in front of our door. The armed milicianos looked intently at our house. As my older son told me later, mother turned away from the window and gathered the children. Someday, she said, as calmly as she had explained the earthquake to me, everyone must die. For some, it will come sooner than to others. We are going to pray now and ask God to guide us wherever we must go. Then came the sound of a truck pulling away. My son went downstairs and cautiously looked out of the front door. The men had gone, but they left a sign. Written in red paint was the notice. Respect this house. It belongs to a friend of children. It was signed with communist emblem, the hammer and sickle. One day in May, at the height of tulip season, I lunched with her before a window, overlooking a panorama of flowers and sea. I told her that I had met an official of Ghana, which was soon to become independent and desperately needed schools. He wanted mother and me to help teach the teachers. If any children need help, it is those poor children of African countries, mother said. Certainly we must go. I reminded her of the heat, the primitive living conditions. After all, she was 81. So you don't want me to come? She scolded me gently. Someday I may go and leave you behind. You will never go where I cannot follow, I told her, repeating that childhood boasts of long ago. I left the room to find the map of Africa in an atlas. When I returned, mother was dead. She would have gone to Ghana or any other place where children needed her.
Light a candle for peace, light a candle for love, light a candle that shines all the way around the world. Light a candle for me, light a candle for you, that the wish for world peace will one day come true. Light a candle for peace, light a candle for love, light a candle that shines all the way around the world. Light a candle for me, light a candle for you, that I wish for world peace will one day come true. Send peace around the world. 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 Bring peace around the world. Sing peace around the world. Sing peace around the world. Sing peace around the world. Light a candle for peace, light a candle for love, light a candle that shines all the way around the world. Light a candle for peace, light a candle for you, that our wish for world peace will one day come true. Light a candle for peace, light a candle for love, light a candle that shines all the way around the world. Light a candle for me, light a candle for you, that our wish for world peace will one day come true.
I do not know who has painted the pictures of my life imprinted on my memory. But whoever he is an artist. He does not take up his brush simply to copy everything that happens. He retains or omits things just as he fancies. He makes many a big thing small and small things big, and does not hesitate to exchange things in the background with things in the foreground. In short, his task is to write pictures, not to write history. The flow of events form our external life, while within us a series of pictures is painted. The two correspond but are not identical. There is no event in my book, Reminiscences, worthy of being preserved for all time. If pictures which have taken shape in memory can be expressed in words, they will be worthy of a place in literature. So, Reminiscences is a literary material that I offer from my memory pictures. To regard them as an attempt of autobiography would be a mistake. We three boys were brought up together. Both my companions were 2 years older than I. When they were placed under their tutor, my teaching also began, but of what I learned, nothing remains in my memory now. What recurs to me constantly is this: the rain patters, the leaf quivers. I first heard it when I had just come to anchor after crossing the stormy region of the Kharakala cities. It struck me then as the first poem of the arch poets. Whenever the delight of that day comes back to me, even now, I realize why rhyme is so vital in poetry. The next thing I recall is the beginning of my school life. One day I saw my elder brother and my sister's son, Satya, also a little older than myself, starting for school, leaving me behind for being accounted unfit. I was yet to ride in a carriage or even go out of the house. So when Satya came back full of unduly glowing accounts of his adventures on the way, I felt I simply could not stay at home. Our tutor tried to dispel my illusion with sound advice and a resounding slap. He said, "You're crying to go to school now? You'll have to cry a lot more later on to be let off." I have no recollection of the name, face, or character of this tutor, but the impression of his weighty advice and weightier hand has not yet faded. Never in my life have I heard a truer prophecy. My crying drove me prematurely into the Oriental Seminary. What I learned there, I have no idea, but one of its methods of punishment I still bear in mind. A boy who was unable to repeat his lessons was made to stand on a bench with his arms extended. On his upturned palms were piled a number of slates. Let psychologists debate how far this method is likely to induce a better grasp of things. I thus began my studies at an extremely tender age. My initiation into literature came around the same time from the books that were in vogue in the servants' quarters. Chief among them were a Bengali translation of Chanakya's aphorisms and the Ramayana of Kritivas.
সব কাজে হাত লাগাই মোরা সব কাজে হাত লাগাই মোরা সব কাজে পাতা পধন্যে গুনে সব কাজে হাত লাগাই মোরা সব কাজে হাত লাগাই মোরা সব কাজে পাতা পধন্যে গুনে সব কাজে হাত লাগাই মোরা সব কাজে। আমরা সবাই রাজা আমাদের রাজার রাজত্বে, নইলে মুদের রাজা শনে নীলবুকি সত্ত্বে। আমরা সবাই রাজা আমাদের রাজার রাজত্বে, নইলে মোদের রাজা শনে নীলবুকি সত্ত্বে। আমরা সবাই রাজা।
Within and without. We lived under the rule of servants. To save themselves trouble, they virtually suppressed our right of free movement. This was hard to bear, but the neglect was also a kind of independence. It left our minds free, unpampered, and unburdened by all the usual bother over food and dress. What we ate had nothing to do with delicacies. Our clothing, were I to itemize it, would invite a modern boy's scorn. On no pretext might we wear socks or shoes until we had passed our 10th year. In the cold weather, a second cotton shirt over our first one was deemed sufficient. If children are only allowed to be children, to run about and play and satisfy their curiosity, the burden becomes quite light. Insoluble problems are created only if one tries to confine children inside, keep them still, or hamper their play. Then childishness becomes onerous and falls heavily on the guardian, like the horse in the fable, who was carried by bearers instead of being allowed to trot on its own legs. Though money could procure bearers even for a horse, it could not prevent them from venting their anger on the unlucky beast at every step.
ছেড়ে দে রে দে রে আরে দে রে দে রে আমায় ছেড়ে দে রে দে রে যেমন ছড়া বনের পাখি মনের আনন্দে রে আরে রে 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 আমায় ছেড়ে দে রে 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 আরে রে 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 আমায় ছেড়ে দে রে দে রে
To leave the house was forbidden to us. In fact, we did not even have the run of the interior. We had to get our glimpses of nature from behind barriers. Beyond my reach stretched this limitless thing called the outside. Flashes, sounds, and scents of which used momentarily to come and touch me through the shutters with a verity of gestures. But it was free, and I was bound. There was no way of our meeting, so its attraction was all the stronger. Today the chalk line has been wiped away, but the confining circle is still there. The horizon is just as far away. What lies beyond it is still out of reach. And I am reminded of the poem I wrote when I was older. The tame bird was in a cage. The free bird was in the forest. They met when the time came. It was a decree of fate. The free bird cries, "Oh, my love, let us fly to the wood." The cage bird whispers, "Come hither, let us both live in the cage." Says the free bird, "Among bars, where is there room to spread one's wings?" "Alas," cries the caged bird, "I do not know where to sit perched in the sky." I would sometimes climb to the terrace in the middle of the day. By that time, everybody in the house would have finished their meal, and there would be an interlude in the business of the households. Over the inner apartments would settle the quiet of a siesta, with wet bathing clothes hanging over the parapets to dry, the crows picking at the leavings thrown on a refuse heap in the corner of the yard, and in the solitude, the caged bird and the free bird would commune with each other, beak to beak.
কোথাও আমার হারিয়ে যাবার নেই মানা মনেই মনে মনেই মনে মেলে দিলেম গানের সুরে এই দানা মনেই মনে মনেই মনে কোথাও আমার হারিয়ে যাবার নেই মানা মনেই মনে মনেই মনে
The intriguing universe, the thought that behind every portion of the blue vault of the sky there reposed the secrets of the heavens, also spurred our imagination. When our Pandit, wishing to illustrate some lesson in our Bengali sincere primer, told us that the sky was not a finite blue sphere, we were thunderstruck. Put ladder upon ladder, he said, and go on mounting, but you will never bump your head. He must be mean with his ladder. I thought and aloud said in a tone of rising indignation. And what if we put more ladders, and more and more? I grasped that to multiply ladders was fruitless. I was dumbfounded. Surely, I concluded after much pondering, such an astounding fact must be part of secret knowledge of school teachers, known to them and to no one else.
বিস্ময়ে তাই জাগে জাগে আমার গান আকাশ ভরা সূর্য তারা বিশ্ব ভরা প্রাণ হারি মাঝ খানে আমি পেয়েছি পেয়েছি মুস্তান বিস্ময়ে তাই জাগে জাগে আমার গান
I remember only one of the teachers whose language was so foul that I steadily refused to answer any one of his questions out of sheer contempt for him. Thus, I sat silent throughout the year at the bottom of his class, and while the rest of the class was busy, I would be left alone to attempt the solution of many an intricate problem. When at last a year had passed in the class, we were examined in Bengali by Pandit Madhusudhan Bachaspati. I got the largest number of marks of all the boys. The teacher complained to school authorities that there had been favoritism. So I was examined a second time, with the superintendent of the school seated beside the examiner. This time also I got topless.
Poetry at its best. Poems were things that up to then I had seen only in books, without mistakes inked out or visible sign of doubt or effort or human weakness. That any attempt of mine might produce a poem like this, I could not even dare to imagine. After stringing together a few words at my own sweet will, I found them turn into pyre verse and felt I had no illusions left about the glories of poetism. The first feeling of awe once overcome, there was no holding me back. I managed to get hold of a blue paper manuscript book, courtesy of one of the officers of our estate. In my own hand, I ruled it with pencil lines at not very regular intervals and began to write verses in a large scroll.
এদিন আজি কঙ্গারে গোকুলে দিল দ্বার আজি প্রাতে সূর্য ওঠা সফল লোকার এদিন আজি কঙ্গারে গোকুলে দিল দ্বার কাহার অভিষেকে তারে সোনার গতে আলো বারে উষাকা আশিস বয়ে ফুলো আদার পার আজি প্রাতে সূর্য ওঠা সফল লোকার
Between pictures and songs and curry to Komal, sharps and flats, a child's magazine called Balaka sprang up and flourished and died like an annual plant. My second sister-in-law felt the want of an illustrated magazine for children. Her idea was that the young people of the family could contribute to it, but as she felt that alone could not be enough, she took up the editorship herself and asked me to help by contributing.
চঞ্চল আমরা অদ্ভুত আমরা নূতন যৌবনের দূত আমরা চল চল আমরা অদ্ভুত আমরা নূতন যৌবনের দূত আমরা বেড়া ভাঙ্গি আমরা অসভ্যনে রাঙ্গানে সারামি পাঞ্জর বন্ধন চিহ্ন করেডি আমরা বিদ্যুৎ আমরা চঞ্চল আমরা অদ্ভুত আমরা নূতন যৌবনের
The great difference between the rainy season of my childhood and the autumn of my youth is that in the former, it is the outer nature, closely hemmed in entertaining me with her numerous troupe, her variegated makeup and her medley of music, while in the latter I find that the festivity is within me. The play of cloud and sunshine has receded into the background, and murmurs of joy and sorrow of people have occupied the mind. It is these that lend the blue of the autumn sky its wistful tinge and invest the breath of the breezes with poignancy. In childhood, when I was confined to the house, I looked wistfully through the openings in my parapet of our inner roof terrace and offered my heart to nature. In my youth, it was the world of men that exerted a power of attraction on me. I was an outsider and I looked upon it from the wayside. I longed for my poems to reach the doors of men's minds.
আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয়
আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় আমার মুক্তি ধুলায় ধুলায় ঘাসে ঘাসে এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় দেহ মনের সুর পারে হারিয়ে ফেলি আপনার গানের সুরে আমার মুক্তি ঊর্ধ্বে ভাসে এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয় এই আকাশে আমার মুক্তি আলোয় আলোয়
During the rains of my childhood, my poems were misty with puffy sentiments, my rhythm incoherent but with my autumnal sharps and flats. In my youth, not only could colors be seen in the clouds, but golden crops were rising from the ground, and there was a definite attempt in variety of both the language and the meter in my poems to establish contact with the real world. The world is sweet, I do not want to die. I want to live within the stream of humanity. This is the individual's dedication of himself to life. Hi everyone. I wrote this song recently. It's still a work in progress and I hope you enjoy it. It's called Soothe.